Hi, this is Denise Hammonds doing a cultural analysis of Athletes in Action Campus Ministry. This is for Organizational Leadership Class 610. So Athletes in Action Campus Ministry was started in 1966 by Dave Hanna, and the vision and the mission of Athletes in Action is we are dreaming of a day where there's a Christ follower on every team, in every sport, in every nation. Here we go, the mission statement. Athletes in Action mission statement is building spiritual movements in every athletic department. So as I said, Athletes in Action was started by Dave Hanna in 1966. Dave was a football player at the University of Oklahoma, and he was drafted to go to the NFL. And as he was drafted and considering going to the NFL, he was really wrestling with how he could make the most impact with his life. And he came to Christ while he was a football player at Oklahoma, and he really wanted to make an impact with his life. And he saw how sport is a huge vehicle, a common language that's spoken around the world. And so he decided that he wanted to join staff with Athletes in Action to reach people for Christ through the platform of sport. So Athletes in Action just celebrated 50 years of ministry this past April, where Dave Hanna was present and shared the vision once again of why God put it on his heart to start this ministry. So now Athletes in Action has 5 major departments, and AIA Campus is the largest department. AIA Campus has 250 staff, and AIA Campus has a presence on around 226 college campuses in the United States. So why does Athletes in Action Campus need a cultural analysis? So in light of just celebrating 50 years, there are a lot of changes that have taken place in the past 50 years and a lot of changes ahead. Some of the key changes are a huge emphasis in recruiting. One of the key strategic objectives for Athletes in Action Campus is sending or recruiting. So onboarding plenty of new staff, it's a key time to make sure we understand the culture and are leading these new staff well. Another reason, AIA Campus has just onboarded 3 new national leaders. And so to help these national leaders understand the culture and a cultural analysis is extremely beneficial. The third reason is diversity. There's a huge emphasis on ethnic diversity within Athletes in Action Campus so that we can be ethnically proportional representation based on what the NCAA has with ethnic diversity. Athletes in Action is way behind. Athletes in Action desires to have representation equal to the NCAA. So the NCAA athletic department has 35% ethnic diversity. Athletes in Action Campus is nowhere near that and desires to make adjustments toward that. And finally, Athletes in Action Campus is currently reaching 10% of the college athletic departments. So there are around 2,100 athletic departments. AIA Campus is on 226. So the overview of this analysis. So I observed 6 different settings that involved 40 AIA staff, local staff, regional staff, and national level staff. I interviewed 2 different groups and 5 individuals. And then I did textual analysis of 15 different sources. So 40 AIA campus staff, which is 16% of the total campus staff. So that is 18 regional and national staff were observed or interviewed, and 22 local level staff. And so the breakdown of these local level staff, 11 of them are in a role called local team leader. I had a very unique focus toward the local team leader role in this cultural analysis. The local level staff represented 8 of 10 regions, and there was ethnic diversity, there was gender diversity, diversity within roles, and diversity within location. And then there were 5 moms, which are more of a part-time role within Athletes in Action, and I wanted to have key emphasis toward that unique aspect of AIA Campus. So the major themes that showed up, this was exciting. So Athletes in Action's vision and mission is to see a Christ follower on every team, in every sport, in every nation, and to build spiritual movements on those teams. So across the board, 100% of the people interviewed and 100% of the meetings I observed, spiritual impact was mentioned multiple times. 7 of the 10 interview questions that I used surfaced answers in the spiritual impact theme. So this showed up with staff, the campus staff telling stories of how God's using them to reach athletes for Christ, stories of how they are praying to reach athletes for Christ, stories of student leaders who are stepping out to share their faith and share their testimony for the first time. Spiritual impact came up 100% of the time in observations and in interviews. Another theme that showed up was personal growth and development. In every observation and every interview, staff mentioned how they have a huge emphasis of personal growth and development. And this is something they mentioned feeling very cared for by the leadership. And then the third area of emphasis is team. About 50% of the time, team was mentioned as staff are wanting to grow their team. That's a huge priority. And then many staff were mentioning how they want more training and resourcing and how to develop their team. And then finally, team was mentioned with the huge emphasis of recruiting interns and new staff to join them. So the data, the reliability and pervasiveness. So Athletes in Action Campus is the largest department within Athletes in Action. So the pervasiveness and salience is extremely high. Whatever happens in AIA Campus spreads into other departments of AIA. 75% of the new hires that join within Athletes in Action are from AIA Campus. So the data that was discovered in this cultural analysis applies to many other departments of Athletes in Action. So areas of improvement, as I studied AIA Campus, these 4 areas came up in interviews as well as observations as key areas to improve. Local team leader support. There are 41 local team leaders throughout the U.S. and 30% of the time, these local team leaders mentioned feeling overstretched, feeling alone in their role. Local team leaders also mentioned needing more care from their regional supervisor. And finally, and next, HR capacity was mentioned by 3 different individuals. They mentioned things like HR conversations have been awkward, or HR staffing seems low. There's a slow turnaround time when hiring staff. And there was quite a bit of frustration, quite a bit of emotion came out as questions related to AIA at its worst. HR capacity came out as one of the key areas that is extremely frustrating. The third area of improvement is the key measurement system. Athletes in Action does monthly measurements of the ministry activity, and this across the board from local level staff, regional staff, as well as national leaders. They all mentioned disbelief and frustration with the lack of clarity in the key measurement system. And finally, 3 staff mentioned assumptions around lingo and assumptions that are made regarding MPD, which is Ministry Partner Development, the funding strategy for campus staff. There are also assumptions around ethnic diversity and their ability to raise funds in the same way that's set up by a predominantly majority culture system. And finally, assumptions around marital status, that there's a higher priority around staff who are married than staff who are not married. So these areas for improvement, suggestions that I have made related to these areas. The local team leader role. AIA campus leaders would benefit from increasing the support around the team leader role, as well as allocating more staff resourcing to the local team leaders. Next, the HR and the allocation and ministry partner development structure. There's poor communication with AIA campus staff in this area. So I would suggest increased staffing there. Many of those I interviewed expressed frustration regarding the turnaround time and the awkward kind of communication that comes from that department. And finally, key measurements. It's an unclear measuring system, and to do increased training for key measurements for AIA campus staff. So the AIA campus cultural themes that show up across the board, 100% of those I interviewed and observed mentioned spiritual impact and change lives is the key reason key value they have in doing what they do with AIA campus. And also the AIA campus staff mentioned personal growth and development at every level, regional, national, and local level staff mentioned they feel developed, they feel cared for, and they feel that personal growth is emphasized and celebrated. And finally, team emphasis. Many staff mentioned the need for a team, the desire to build team, and how they are actively recruiting new staff and interns to join their team. And these were supported by the elements of story, AIA campus elements. They mentioned story, the language, the values, the rituals, history. All of these elements support these key themes of spiritual impact, personal growth, and team emphasis. So the three themes, each of these themes, spiritual impact, personal growth, and team, are supported by the elements of story, language, values, rituals, history. And each theme is supported by repetition in observation, interviews, and textual analysis. I saw these themes come out in each of the three areas that I did research. So my conclusion, the overall strengths I see in the AIA campus culture are spiritual impact, personal growth, and team focus. Further study is definitely needed in interviewing regional level leaders. I was only able to observe regional leaders. I was not able to interview any regional leaders. And also, I was not able to interview women with children that report under the local team leader role. This was a miss in my research, and I would recommend further study being done in those two key areas that really influence the AIA campus culture. So to further see charts, details of my interviews, to see my executive summary and my field notes from observation, check out this link in my Google Drive folder. Thank you very much for paying attention to this cultural analysis of AIA campus ministry, where the vision is to see a Christ follower on every team, in every sport, in every nation. And this cultural analysis hopefully will help increase the effectiveness of AIA campus to go after their mission and vision. Thank you.